Alright, start of a new part here. We're going over a bunch of 80s movies. Hasn't been too difficult here on the platform. Not going to recap all the movies I've gone through so far. It's been quite a few. And just finished up with Ghostbusters. And I am referring to the 80s version, not the newer one. I will watch the newer one at some point. It's got the people from Stranger Things in there, and I am a fan of Stranger Things. I believe it's also got Paul Rudd. I could I could go on about Paul Rudd for quite a while as well. Big fan of Paul Rudd. Ant-Man.
And the four winds greet you. That's it. Get a little
I think I'm going to keep talking about 80s movies, though. Just keep that theme going.
Without a balance, you have nothing.
Another great 80s film. Also had the kid from the Goonies in it. Was Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, to be specific. All of the Indiana Jones films are classics and amazing films. I did not care for the Crystal Skull, the most recent one that they made. I felt like Harrison Ford was tired, and it showed.
Ooh, that doesn't sound
But the Temple of Doom was definitely one of the greats. I did like the one with Sean Connery as well. I believe that was the Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail. Sean Connery playing his father. A lot of those movies have a lot to do with Nazis and stuff, and trying to keep them away from mystical artifacts that could change the world. There's Steven Spielberg. Yeah, those are great. Love the Indiana Jones films.
or no weapon. Decision.
I really just don't want to give up my jug. And they're on it. That's not good. If we can get there in time. Yeah, we did.
You bring shame to the zombie people.
Alright, going on around 44. I'm going to take this to 50 plus and call it. Definitely have shown plenty of parts here, giving everybody the education they need to run high round strategies on Ascension. That is the ultimate goal of these strategy guides. Alright, and another great 80s movie. Speaking of Ghostbusters, was Caddyshack with Bill Murray. Another great one. If you have not seen Caddyshack, that's a classic as well. So hilarious. Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, in their prime. The interactions between Bill Murray and that gopher is hilarious. Keeps trying to get that gopher. No matter what he does, that gopher outsmarts him.
Lest ye be destroyed.
Hey, there's a bunch of power-ups there.
The best, you die like the rest. That is it? That is all you have?
Another movie from the 80s that was very well made would be Red Dawn. Red Dawn is another great 80s movie. It's got Charlie Sheen and Patrick Swayze in their youth. Patrick Swayze playing the older brother of the two. They actually remade this movie recently with, I believe it's Chris Hemsworth. It's Chris or Liam. I'm not positive which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's Chris. And the other character, I don't even know who he is. He's not famous to me. He might be famous to the youth, but he's not famous to me. But the old 80s version has Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen. And it's a movie about America being invaded by Russian and Cuban forces, I believe. Cuba definitely is involved. The newer one, I believe, is North Korea.
That is called a reversal of fortune, beast.
And it's about the children's resistance against an incoming movies portraying people in America having to defend their homeland. So
Now I will
it's quite
give you
interesting
something
movie
to
how that all
work
plays
on.
out. Talked about Sigourney Weaver earlier. She was in Ghostbusters, but she's most notable, or mostly known for her role in Aliens.
Cannot be surrounded.
The movie Aliens was also an 80s movie,
Dare
another
share
80s
the same
classic.
air as Tokyo.
It was a brilliant film. They waited such a long time to reveal the alien creature in that film. It was another one that was all about suspense. Another thing that I think the show Stranger Things kind of took some advice from. They took advice from a lot of these 80s films. E.T., Aliens. Can definitely see where they got some ideas from. Even down to the music that's played on Stranger Things. It has a real 80s vibe to it. Okay, we'll go ahead and end this one. We can. Alright. We're on to 45. Probably gonna go 5 more rounds here and call it. For the next map, like I said earlier, I'm still undecided on. It's probably either going to be a trip to Moon, or I will be using the Fire Staff and being the Shepherd of Fire on Origins. And if not one of those two, it will probably be Revelations. Revelations was a map that was very well designed, and it allowed you to have 2 of the Wonder Weapons at the same time, the Apothicon Servant and the Zeus Cannon. I'll hurry these rounds up a little bit, especially since I have the ammo here. Throw a Gersh device out.
The abominations are poured into the void.
A couple left of those, I'm going to throw another one as soon as I build up the mob a little bit. Alright.
360 degrees of putrescence.
If I had to rank the Indiana Jones in order from best film to worst film, just judging the 3 older ones from the 80s, what I think I would do is, I think I would go Temple of Doom #1 for me. I loved Short Stack. He was great in the film. It was cool to see Indiana Jones have a hilarious sidekick. Brave sidekick, too. And then I would think that number 2, I guess Raiders of the Lost Ark, just because it was the first one, you know, as the first one that he ever made. It was cool to see the origin story, and the third one being the Holy Grail with Sean Connery. And that's not to say that one was a bad one. It was still a very, very good one. I love that movie. But I think the Raiders of the Lost Ark was so good, it has to come in at least second, if not first. But first, Temple of Doom, Short Stack, Short Round. That was his name, Short Stack. It was Short Round. And going back further than that, Star Wars. That was in the 70s, not the 80s. But if I had to rank the old 3 Star Wars films, so difficult to do. They were all great to me. But I'd probably pick Return of the Jedi as being the best. Luke was in his prime. He was no longer training anymore. He was a fierce Jedi. And he really was kind of overpowered in that film. If you watch the other two films, like Luke is this young boy. He's just learning about the Force. Still cool. On part 2, he's with Yoda training with another former Jedi. Very cool. But in Return of the Jedi, he was like already a Jedi. He is already a Jedi Master. He's established. I mean, even Vader, if you watch those final scenes of that movie, I don't think he ever struggled in that fight. He kind of just had it. He had it. Was no trouble for him. The only thing Luke was weakened by in Return of the Jedi was when the Emperor said, you know, what about your friends? You can't protect your friends. That was Luke's only real weakness, was worrying about his friends. Of course he should, you know? But he wasn't worried about himself at that point. They couldn't do anything to him anymore. They had no power over him anymore. All they could do was threaten his friends. So I think that's why Return of the Jedi was the best one. Also, I love the Ewoks. Those are cool little creatures. And then the second best one, I'm going to do the same thing I did with Indiana Jones, cliche as it is. I'm going to pick the first one, Star Wars A New Hope. It was Luke first on the scene. We didn't really know what to expect if you've never seen the movie or were explained it before. Introduction to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's just this old man in the mountains. You don't think too much of him until you start learning about the guy. These are not the droids you're looking for. Whoa, what just happened there?
These are odds I can work with.
Yeah, he could handle himself in the bar too. It's pretty crazy. Pretty good show. Return of the Jedi coming in first for me. Star Wars A New Hope second. Empire Strikes Back third, but not least. It's still a great film. They were all great films. Speaking of Star Wars, Disney has released some newer shows, newer TV series for Disney Plus only members. The first one being The Mandalorian. And I was surprised by that. I mean, I love Star Wars. I love the Star Wars universe, but I did not think I was going to be able to get into The Mandalorian, and I was very wrong. That is an amazing show. Great writing. Jon Favreau, I believe, was the creator. He did a great job with The Mandalorian, both seasons. And the end of the second season is like what everybody... If you've ever watched Star Wars before, and you don't want to watch The Mandalorian, watch the last episode of the second season. Tell me you don't want to watch it then. They do something with the special effects that I did not know was possible. It's pretty amazing. I'm not going to ruin it, but if you do season, last episode, watch the very end and see what happens. After they made the 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, they made the Book of Bobbafet, which was what I would call a continuation from The Mandalorian. The Book of Bobbafet is a character who was in The Mandalorian that they gave their own spin-off. But I would call it a continuation. And without giving away too much, I'll just say that the Mandalorian story continues through Boba Fett. It does not end at the Mandalorian. So if you think you're going to watch the Book of Boba Fett and you're not going to get to, you know, that the Mandalorian is over, like, that is not correct. The Book of Boba Fett actually continues the story. It's not all about the Mandalorian, but his story is continued through it. So